I've been resin 3D printing tabletop miniatures for about a year now, and hopefully I've learned a thing or two that I can now share with you if you're thinking about maybe getting into the hobby or if you're just getting started. So in this video, I will be sharing all the different things that I've learned that I wish I'd have known getting into the hobby. It would have made me do it a lot sooner. So the first thing is, it's a lot easier than you expect. When I first saw that you could 3D print tabletop miniatures, I was really dubious. I just figured there's no way I'd be able to get a decent quality or anywhere close to the shop bought stuff that you could normally buy, and I figured it'd be incredibly difficult. I had no idea what the software looked like, and I didn't know where to start. Honestly, getting these things printed is a lot easier than you expect. How it works is you get what's called an STL from a website, so you can buy them. Some are free, you can subscribe to them through Patreon as well, and you get all the different files, load them into what's called a slicer, and basically you just position them where you want them. Some of them will come pre-supported, and they're the ones that I prefer just because I'm not very good at supporting my own minis. Or if you get really into it, you can support your own minis, which basically means you're adding all of these juts and supports and I guess like a scaffold to it to stop it from falling off the plate as it's printing. That's done, you save those files to a USB, plug it into your printer, hit print, and you're basically done at that stage in terms of getting them printed. There is obviously more to it than that, but in a nutshell, that's how simple it is to do in terms of using the software. And I found it much easier than I expected once I finally got my 3D printer. The next thing is that resin isn't as smelly as a lot of people make it out to, at least the resins I've used. I've tried out a lot of different resins, especially for this channel, to do different reviews on it. People send me them to try out as well. And I've got to say, I've never had any that have been absolutely atrocious. The only time I've been bothered by the resin smell was when I first got the Elegoo ABS light resin, and my first batch of that really stank. But after that, I've not had any issues at all. Now, do bear in mind that you probably shouldn't be in a place where you can smell that resin all the time. You should ideally have your printer venting all of those fumes out, because if you can smell it, it means there's fumes, and it's probably not going to be good for you. Now, I am no science or medical expert, but at the end of the day, you don't want to be smelling them. However, it's not going to stink out your whole house. What I will say that is very smelly is the alcohol that you will normally end up using to clean your prints. For me, that smells, I hate it, and I just wish there was an easier way to print. You can get water washable resins, but that's a story for another video. The next one is that getting lazy is very easy, and this is the same as with all things. When you first get into the 3D printing hobby, especially with resin printers, you'll hear all of the different safety advice, and you get sent with a little pair of goggles, you'll have a mask that you're meant to be using, and gloves, and everything there. It's very easy to get lazy with it as you just become more complacent about cleaning up your models and everything else. Now, let me tell you a very quick story. I once got very lazy with this, and one time I hadn't fastened the bolts on my vat, which meant that as the build plate came down, it cured, it all got stuck together and lifted up. I didn't put any safety gear on, went to get it off it, and when I was trying to pull the vat off, I dropped it and resin splashed everywhere. Fortunately for me, I didn't get any in my eyes or my mouth or anything like that, but that's one of those examples of getting complacent is easy, and this can be a dangerous hobby. If you get complacent and lazy, you could blind yourself, or just anything like that. So just don't get lazy. Next one is, it's very addictive, but I think this can be said for pretty much everything within this wargaming hobby. How many of you have grey piles of shame out there where you've gone out and you've bought a box set or you've bought too many models and you've just never painted them, not even stuck them together? Let me know in the comments who out there that applies to. It's very easy to happen. The same thing happens with 3D printing. I end up with files and files of shame, and not that kind of shame that you might be thinking of. These files of all these different models that I've intended to get print off and just never have. I've got so many of them. I have loads of subscriptions that I'm probably never going to print. And then I've also got loads of models I have printed off and never painted. It's very addictive, and it's very easy to fall down that rabbit hole, because instead of having to go on somewhere like Amazon or going directly to a game's website and then having to put in your payment details and wait for stuff to get sent out to you, for this, you literally click a button and you can download the stuff. So it's quite easy to fall down that rabbit hole. Next one up that I hadn't really seen around much before is that, in my opinion anyway, the actual cleanup of the models matters more than the printer itself. In the background there, I've got my original Mars Pro, and that's the one that I started off with. And to be honest, its quality isn't that dissimilar to things like the Mars 3 that I've been using and now the Saturn. And at the end of the day, the thing that made the biggest difference for me was cleaning up. So how it works is your models will come off the printer and they'll normally have the supports, they'll normally have like wet resin, uncured resin all over them, and you then need to clean them and then cure them. When I started out, I was dipping them into alcohol, using a toothbrush to try and get them clean, and I could just never do a very good job. Some people do that and they do a fantastic job, so you don't need extra kit. But I bought a wash and cure station and it made all the difference for me. I managed to get them really nice and clean, and the step up in quality that I've seen, which has been the biggest, has been on that machine there, when I've literally just gone from a bad cleaning system into one that I've bought and then got some really clean prints from. I saw the biggest difference in step up in quality using that. Now, obviously, there are going to be some awful machines out there that you can get which just do a diabolical job. But at the end of the day, if you don't clean your prints right, it doesn't matter how good your machine is. You just need to get good at cleaning and figure that out. Otherwise, you'll just get some bad prints all the time. The next one that no one really talks to you about, they all talk about the smell of the resin and just, sometimes these chemicals can be harmful. But I live with a little niggling hint of fear all the time having these machines in my house. Now, I know this is going to come down to personality type, depending where you can put the machines and everything. And it's not so much the resin and the 3D printer, but for me, it's the alcohol. So it's 99.9% alcohol or whatever on that label. And my thought is, if anything ever happens and I have like a small house fire, that's probably going to cause it to be a very big house fire. Now, you can be safe and put them into like a metal container, something like a metal filing cabinet. It's always worthwhile investing in. You could have it outside, you could have it somewhere outside of your house. But for me, I always have that little niggling bit of fear. It doesn't stop me from doing it. I do all the things that I can possibly do to make it as safe as possible. Like I said there, having a metal filing cabinet, something just to help it keep it away from flames. And I guess if I have a small house fire, I've got other things to be worrying about as well. But it's just something that sits there in the background. The next one as well is that the community for 3D printing is fantastic. It's really, really welcoming. There is a wealth of information out there on things like Reddit, different forums, different Facebook groups, obviously on YouTube as well. And people are really surprisingly friendly. Running this channel, I haven't had too many of those troll comments where they come in and they really just like kick your ass. But I've had a lot of fantastic feedback from people joining like my Discord channel. There's been so many people that have been really like forthcoming with the settings that they use, guidance on cleaning, just so many different things. And the reason why this is so important is that these machines are still, in my opinion anyway, at a stage where they're not quite consumer level. So although they're really easy to buy, and actually they're pretty easy to get going and get used to, if you watch a few videos and just do your research, when things start going wrong, it can be harder to get that support. It's not quite as simple as, I don't know, having your iPhone and walking into the shop you bought it from and saying, I need help with this, and sending it off for repair. It becomes more of a case of there's no physical location you can take machine to. It's harder to troubleshoot because a lot of the time you just get things back. You'll need to take it all apart and do the work yourself. So, bear that in mind. But the community is fantastic. So if you have issues, there's normally somebody out there who's willing to help you, and it's a very, very welcoming community. The next thing is that there are so many more things than tabletop miniatures that you can print with this. And when I first got into this, my whole thing was I wanted to print off tabletop miniatures, and I figured you'd just be able to do all like your standard 28 and 32mm models. I've done an incredible amount of printing with my resin 3D printers, right from these small little models down to like 10 and 15mm stuff, which is fantastic and a lot of fun, through to these massive models. I mean, there's one in the background, I think you can just about see it up there. They've got the Void Reaver just up there. Fantastic, like massively large models. And it's not just models as well. I did like the lightsaber, you can print off toys, you can print off functional stuff. The world really is your oyster. There is so much to choose from, and it's not just about these little miniatures. There's so much you can do. Terrain, all sorts. Absolutely love it. And the final thing is, it's actually a lot of fun. I've really, really gotten back into this hobby because of my 3D printer. I'd started out by buying a couple of boxes from Games Workshop that I thought would get me back into the hobby like I was when I was younger, and it just didn't quite do it for me. Having the freedom to print off all the different miniatures that I can, and having that ability to customize them or pick the different types of units I want. If I want a different type of Ratman, I can have that. If I want a different type of Orc, I can have that. I'm not just stuck with one company or just a couple of companies. It's been so much fun, and it's really hooked me back into this hobby. So I hope that's helped you in thinking, if you are on the fence about getting a resin 3D printer, and you're not too sure, I guess, some of the pitfalls and some of the good things about it, hopefully this video has at least helped you a little bit. I know it's not the most in-depth thing there. I've got other videos about 3D printing, so if you want to find out more about things like miniature quality and the different paints that I've used with them, I guess things like the different resins, I've got a whole host of those videos, so they'll be somewhere on YouTube. You just need to kind of subscribe and find those, and there's definitely going to be something out there that'll help you if you are new getting into this hobby. Also, if you are new getting into this hobby or you're thinking about it, throw your comments and your questions down below. You can head over to my Discord channel as well, which I've got linked down below as well, and you can ask different questions there. Pretty active in there, so if you do have any sort of queries, anything you want to find out about 3D printing, more than happy to help, and so is the community as well. So as always, I hope you've enjoyed that video. If you have, hit the like and subscribe button. Come on for some more content in the future. I'll see you soon. Bye.